So Ruby and Jodi's court case has been postponed until October, and at first I was very frustrated with this decision, especially because just a couple days ago they expedited the case. Now at first, that didn't make any sense to me, okay? But there are two good things that come out of the case being postponed. The first being that Ruby and Jodi are both still going to be incarcerated during this time, which means that they're going to be stuck in there. There's no chance of parole and there's no chance of bail, so they're stuck. But the other good piece of news, which I thought was a bad thing at first, was when they said this. Utah State Court officials said they needed additional time needed to review copious amounts of discovery, according to local KUTV. Court documents say the hearing will be rescheduled at the convenience of the court on a date after October 5th, 2023. Now, at first in my mind, the way that I took this is, oh my God, there is already so much information and evidence out there. What more do you need? And then I realized something by reading this one YouTube comment. You know you're going down when your lawyer is overwhelmed with the evidence they have against you. Which means, come October, their new court date, it's not looking good for them. So while I looked at the postponement with frustration at first, I now look at it in a new light, meaning that they're fucked. Like, they are. Another update we have on the case is that the judges are looking into making the case private, which means the rest of the world won't really know what's going on when they have their hearings in court. The only downside to this is that Shari would lose access to the case.
The judge did ask that discussion focus solely on scheduling and on whether or not to close this case to the public, since it doesn't involve children and sensitive information. So today, cameras were not allowed in the courtroom, but I was able to attend. I heard from both the attorney of the children asking that this child welfare case specifically be closed to the public. I also, the judge also in the courtroom talked about, she understands the media interest and the importance of being transparent. So the judge said that she would like to continue reviewing the motion to close this case. No conclusion was made on that.
Speaking of Shari though, she was at the court today and she looked like an absolute powerhouse. The way she's walking, the way she's carrying herself, she is on a mission. Now listen to how Kevin's lawyers talk to the reporters in this video.
That's what our goal is. We're working hard, Kevin and I, to convince the state that he's an incredible father, as he was before all this happened.
If Kevin was the so-called incredible father that you're making him out to be, then how come you guys have to work that hard to convince the judges that he's a good father? If he was a good father, not only would you not have to convince people that he was, but why would you need to work hard in order to make that happen? If he was a good father, they wouldn't even be in this position in the first place.
And they became separated, but in the meantime, he's just working hard on getting himself back in position to be able to take these kids and raise them as a good father would.
Now, the reason I say that Kevin's lawyer is, as nicely as I can put it, a dumbass, is because he further incriminates Kevin in an interview he did with the Law and Crime Network. So in this video, not once, but twice does he say that Kevin has had no allegations of physical abuse against the children.
There hasn't ever been an allegation that Kevin Franke has ever physically abused his children. He's never been a violent person. He's never severely disciplined his children, and especially not in a physical way.
He doesn't mention any of the other allegations that Kevin has against him of emotional abuse, mental abuse, and enabling of the behavior. Another incriminating part of this interview is when Kevin's lawyer reveals that he had no contact with these kids for 13 months.
Their current status, were they separated?
Correct.
They were separated, I read, for 13 months, so they weren't living with each other. How much was he seeing the kids?
Almost not at all. Actually, not at all.
Now, Kevin wanted to divorce Ruby because of the way that she parented the children. So you're telling me You wanted to file for a divorce from your wife because of the way she treated your children. And yet you left the home and you didn't bother to contact them online. You didn't bother to call them. You didn't bother to FaceTime them. You certainly didn't bother to pull up to the house to see them in person. You didn't have a meeting with Ruby in where you guys exchanged children for the weekend so that you could both have time with them. You didn't fight to see your kids for over an entire year. And you want me to believe that he's an incredible father. He left his children in a situation that he knew was bad for over an entire year. And you still want to convince me that he's a good father that deserves to have the custody of those kids? Get the fuck out.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because she told him it was better that they needed to work on their marriage and needed to keep their family together, but that everything was better off with him not in the home and not communicating with the children.
But what I find funny is how at the end of this clip, Kevin's lawyer is trying so hard to make us feel bad for him and to victimize Kevin in this situation by saying, oh, Kevin was texted that the kids are doing great without him and the house is so good without him and he shouldn't return home or see the kids. Because you're telling me in those months, those long 13 months that he didn't see his kids, Ruby would text him that and he'd look at the phone all willy-nilly and go, okay, I won't see my kids then. She says they're fine, so they're fine. I'm not gonna make an effort to see the children that I had with this woman because she said so. You supposedly left this woman because you didn't like how she parented. And then you're gonna tell me she texts you that the kids are okay, and you're gonna believe that and continue to not do anything to see them or put any effort into fighting the case that you, oh my God, you're an idiot. But it gets even worse because the excuse that Kevin's lawyer uses for his reasoning of staying away from the kids for so long is because he wanted to preserve his marriage.
But he wasn't calling the kids, checking in on the kids, seeing how they're doing. He's the father.
I totally understand that. That was the big question on my mind and the big question on a lot of people. If you've read everything that's in the media, he's getting raked over the coals for that. But what people don't understand is that he was trying to preserve his marriage. He was taking direction from her. She's the one who asked him to leave the house and indicating that in order for him to be able to get back together with her and be a family, that she was requesting that he leave the home and that he not contact them or the children. Later told him that everything was blissful at home. It was so much better without it.
So Kevin willingly let his kids be abused by Ruby for that long because he wanted to save his marriage. He cared more about his marriage than the safety and the well-being of his own children. I don't care what reasoning you have, Kevin. You had the power to get those kids out of that situation, but you didn't because you're lying. And if you're not lying, you're just a fuckwit. As always, I will keep you guys updated on this situation. Thank you so much for watching, and I love you all.